Hey folks, happy Thursday. We are back for another strategy talk. This topic's actually really fun and exciting. How to avoid stock photography. So, a little housekeeping before we dive right in. Again, these are meant to be short and sweet. We wanted to try and keep them digestible for y'all. I know that everybody's moving and shaking, got a lot going on. So we're going to try and keep it to 10 to 15 minutes, just give you some tips, some insight on this particular topic. And then, of course, if you have questions, you have comments, or you want us to dive a little bit deeper, happy to do so. Schedule a follow-up call, dive into some discovery with you. Or if there's a particular topic that you want us to focus on in the future, drop us a note in the comments and we'll be sure to get it in the queue. Before we dive too far, let's just put a little bit of framework around stock photography, right? I think in today's business, everybody uses it, and I'm not saying that it is a bad thing. I think that that's first and foremost, I just want to put that out there. However, I do think there are some potential negative impacts by using too much stock photography. So I just kind of wanted to put a little bit of framework around this particular topic because I know that stock photography is leveraged. In fact, even in some of the higher end productions and movies that you see, commercials that you see, there is stock photography involved. So, with that said, I kind of want to let you mom kick it off. I know you're having a little bit of a phone difficulty over there, but here we are live. This is the nature of the beast. So get yourself situated and then just kick us off a little bit. I know that you wanted to start with a little bit about, leaning into your local community, finding some folks that perhaps are photographers that are right underneath your nose. And you don't
Yeah.
necessarily know that are a little bit more affordable and options for you to sort of shift a little bit away from stock photography. So kick us off a little bit.
Yeah. So first of all, I want to say happy birthday to you, Eli. It's your birthday
Oh, thank
today.
you.
So I think
Thank
that's
you. Thank you.
awesome.
Thank you.
Doing this on your birthday, I get to spend some time with you. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so nice. And I apologize for I'm trying a new phone stand here, and clearly I don't have the hang of it. So it's falling. So if it falls again, just I apologize. But so I love this topic because I think even small businesses, even sole proprietors, don't have to rely so heavily on stock photography as they might. And there's three things that I like to say in terms of this topic. And Elijah, I know you professionally have done a lot more than I have in terms of, being on productions where, photographers are. And I know you're going to talk a little bit more after I share. But I come from this angle of, what can be done and still keep it professional and looking good. So there's three things that I'd like to talk about. Number one is if you're using a cell phone and you're going to do it internally, or you're going to do it yourself, or you have someone internally who just happens to love taking pictures, and there's some really great talented people right under our noses. Um, I'm a big one to say ask for their portfolio. And if they are just somebody in your company that happens to take a lot of photos on their phone, and they think they're pretty good and they want to take a stab at it, ask them to send you, half a dozen photos for you to look at, but not just photos, because I've done this before and people have sent me like beach pictures or
Yep.
whatever. Ask them to kind of set up the idea that you have and do that and send you a couple examples. You're going to get a much better understanding. And what happens is they begin to take it a lot more professionally than me just going to one of my friends and saying, I want you to take some pictures for me. Right.
Yeah.
So that's step number one. If you're using somebody who's using a cell phone internally, and yes, there's a lot of things that you can do with your cell phone. And I always ask them, do you know? Because I'm always surprised when people say, you mean you can change the lighting on your cell phone or whatever? You can do studio background? I never saw that before. So I always say, do you use the tools on your cell phone too? Like, because not everybody knows about it. And that's nothing to be
That's so
ashamed of. I'm
true.
just saying, if somebody knows about all of the tools on their current model of cell phone, they probably can get you some pretty decent shots. Second, I like to say use the up and coming photographers in your area. So and I'll give a little shout out here, in Blair County. I was involved with a program here of young people, and I got to work with an up and coming photographer. And she's amazing, like absolutely amazing. And she's building her portfolio. She's very affordable. There's all kinds of up and coming young people in high schools and colleges in the areas around you that would love to do your work for you. So use the up and coming photographers in your area. So reach out to them, post on Facebook. We're looking for up and coming photographers in our area. And then the third part, and I'll turn it back over to Eli, that I want to talk about is making sure that you're doing pictures yourself of any projects that you, so if
Yeah.
you're a company who, does projects, maybe you're a designer or something, you need to be taking pictures every time. And it's surprising to me, but because we do it too, you're human, how often you forget to get pictures.
Yeah.
Those are first and foremost case studies, example work, things that you should be getting pictures of. So if you are doing that kind of thing and you're using stock photography, you're missing the mark because you're not taking the time to think about, while I am out here, I need to be taking pictures. If you're a consultant and you're in a meeting with somebody, say, is it okay if I snap a picture of us working together for my social media page? Shout them out in it, tag them. They like the free press too. So those are my three go-tos if you're way, concerned. Because oftentimes, like I have a client I work with right now, like I am constantly asking for pictures of
Hmm.
things they do. And it's very hard to get them. And so I'm like, feel kind of sad to use stock photography, but sometimes if we don't take the time to do it, we don't get the pictures.
Yeah. And I before I jump into my side, I think that's a great jumping point, or when I want to piggyback on what you're saying, is there's also areas where it can be difficult to represent what you're doing with photography, and I completely understand that. And I'll even talk about, some of our clients are playing in the field of cybersecurity. Representing cybersecurity can become very difficult when you talk about from an image perspective, right? So there is a lot of the ability to create AI imagery now. So leaning into an AI generated image that you actually feed the AI what you're looking for, and you generate an image that's specific to you, not just going out and buying a stock photographer or stock photography that is already AI generated, but using AI to generate images that are specific to you and relevant to you. So
Yeah.
that's something I like to talk about up front, is that there's industries or services that sometimes are very difficult to represent. But to your point, when you're doing projects, when you're out in the field, if you're having meetings, taking pictures of those meetings, those organic moments, more often than not, and at least from what we've seen in our experience with our clients, usually drive the most engagement, right? Whether that's a team picnic, a team meeting. Maybe we recently had a client that did a boat day, and they did pictures on the boat day. That particular post got way more engagement than any other post that we may have created. So it's just something to keep in the back of your mind. And to your point, Angie, really making a list, right? Like going ahead and taking a look at, okay, what do we have coming up? Put reminders in there to grab photos at events. Grab a photo at a meeting. If you go out to a lunch meeting or a breakfast meeting, grab a quick photo. Of course, ask your permissions, and you want to make sure that you can tag them and share that. But those are easy moments to be able to really take advantage of. The other thing is when you get into the production side of it, right, from a higher level of execution, we always start with shot list, right? So whether we were doing commercials at Black Coffee for Apple, or we were doing a music video, you always start with your storyboards, which then turn into your shot lists, and your shot lists take you through what are your expectations for what you need to capture, and being able to take a look at your products or your services, um, and really creating a shot list of how is this product or this service going to be experienced by my client, thinking about those scenarios and sort of trying to recreate those. I think is one of the things that is sometimes missed by small, mid-sized businesses, is they say, well, I don't have the opportunity to capture those moments. You need to take the time to strategize and think about, okay, let's create a shot list for us and see, how is product A going to be used? What's the environment look like? Let's try to recreate that moment. Or better yet, go find one of your customers that is probably a champion of your brand or maybe local to you, and offer them the opportunity to get some pictures of them using your product, right? And maybe give them a
Yes.
little bit of a um, a discount on their next purchase. It's a way for you guys to continue to build that relationship. But it really is sitting down and taking a look at, right, of what's our product, what's our service, how is it consumed, how is it used. Let's create a shot list, and then see what kind of opportunities are right underneath your nose, whether it's a local photographer, a local product, or I'm sorry, a local consumer of your product, it's a champion of your product, reaching out to those individuals and making the ask. You don't know until you ask, right? That's what we always say. So
Yeah.
that's kind of the one thing that I
I
wanted to
just want
start
to
with.
And I want to just jump in real quick and remind people that you don't have to be the higher end to do the shot list. Like that could be
No,
done by you as an individual, small business, sole proprietor. As you're talking to this student that's going to do your photography, here's my shot list. Let's talk through this. This is what my creative insight and vision looks like, because, we always say, like, all the time, like, no feedback creates a poorer product. Lots of
hmm
feedback creates a better product. And so
yep,
if you're just saying, I want you to go out and take pictures of outdoor scenes for me to use in my social media, I mean, you could get anything, you know.
anything, yeah.
So you're hitting on something that I think we try to encourage smaller businesses to do, and some do and some don't.
And the other thing that I'll point out is, we have a client that's more of a platform based or a technology. In that instance, it's really about finding screenshots of your actual platform, right? Of how does this interface look? What is the user experience? So it's not always photography with a camera or
Right.
photography with, you're taking video. It's how is the platform being experienced? What kind of screenshots can you grab from those platforms to really provide the experience or the expected experience that hopeful prospects will get on that platform? So there's a couple different areas to go there. The other thing that I'd really want to lean into is that this device is so extremely powerful nowadays. If anybody has an iPhone or a smartphone for the matter, I want to speak specifically to the iPhone because I know that the camera that's available on this device is probably better than most of the cameras that you're going to go out and buy as a standalone um, camera. And what I mean by that is you can take pictures and the quality of those pictures is really going to be high level. And furthermore, to your point earlier, you have the ability to control your light. You have the ability to control your background. You have apps that are available now to you that really give you the full functionality of a camera within your phone. I know when we were in LA, oftentimes some of our directors would go out and grab photos through their phone using the Nomo app, right? And they're able to really create images that look incredibly beautiful. And at the end of the day, we'd be going through pictures and be like, where did that picture come from? It was taken on a cell phone. I mean, that in itself just shows that there's proof in the pudding and there's opportunities for you. If you have this device, you can create these pictures. So I really just, the purpose of this topic was to empower
Yes.
our prospects, our clients in the small to medium sized community or business community, because I know that can become frustrating. It can become overwhelming. You might feel like it's a super large expense. You don't have it in the budget. Well, if you take a step back, you put a strategy in place, you figure out what you're trying to recreate and find opportunities that are available to you, you can do that with your phone and with your team and with your products without having to leverage any outside resource or additional expense. But
Yeah.
there is the opportunity to lean into those folks that are local to you that may be also more affordable.
And we always hear budget and time are the two things. Why are you still only using stock photography? Budget and time. Can't afford. And both of those are, I mean, time is actually a little bit harder to overcome because you just
It is.
have to want to do it. Easier isn't always better. So, like, I know there's all kinds of different businesses and all, but like, getting the image of your product and your service should be high on your priority list in today's
Mhm.
world when everything is being done online as far as marketing goes. Um, so, yes, it does add some time and some necessary conversations with people who you may have to get permission from. You may have to have some forms depending on your business. Sometimes people have to have permission
Consent form.
forms
Yep.
or using people in their marketing, obviously, particularly if somebody's under the age of 18 or you're doing something confidential. um, I know we worked in medical many times and you had to watch what was in the background because of HIPAA and stuff. Like you couldn't
Hmm.
have name tags or anything in the background showing the identification. Um, so all of those things are to take into consideration, do take time. So you can't necessarily say, well, this isn't going to take any time, but easier is not always better.
Exactly. And I mean, it comes back to starting with a plan and a strategy. And that's where we start all of our projects at Yazoo, is really taking the time to understand what is the desired outcome, what is the path to get there, what is the initial strategy. And if you don't do that, even with capturing your brand, capturing your products, or capturing your service, it may feel overwhelming. And that's oftentimes, again, that we hear from clients, to your point, is time, and there's the resource aspect. Well, they really haven't even given themselves the time to put on pen and paper, okay, what's happening, what do we expect, what do we want to capture. And by doing that, you may find opportunities like, oh my gosh, we could do this really easily, and
Yep.
go ahead and get a bucket of images that then can be used across a month or a quarter. And that's the other thing that I want to point out really quickly before we wrap up, is oftentimes folks will say, well, how often do we need to do this, right? How many times do I need to schedule these sort of sessions, or photography sessions, or video sessions? Well, typically we would recommend you do it at least once a year, because there's change in the year, right? You probably have evolution of your brand or your service, so that's at least once a year. But look at it biannually or look at it quarterly. I don't. There's no need to do this thing on a monthly basis, or make it feel overwhelming for you. Figure out what's digestible in your schedule, what will fit into that, but then look at it at least on an annual basis. And then we would recommend, exploring the waters at least quarterly, if not biannually, to do this capture. And then it keeps your visuals fresh, because in
Yeah.
today's world, we are a very visual community. And if you don't have strong visuals to represent your brand, your product, or your service, you're missing out. And that's where the negative impact of stock photography comes in. As
Yes.
if everybody looks at this or looks at your image and says, wait a second, I've seen that picture before, they lose the organic connection, right? I figured there was a study that was recently done, and I'll see if I can leave us with this. Um, I want to say it was around 22% increase in memory compared to those who just saw a stock photographer, right? So I think it's really, if you look at stock and you look at an organic image, there's that connection, right, between the brand and the image that you see. The more, if you use these sort of, I hate the word stale, but oftentimes that's what stock photography feels like to me, because there's a little bit of, there's something missing, right, in that organic element. And that organic element is a really strong point, or a really important point to creating a strong connection between your audience and your brand. um, so obviously we're love this topic. It's something that you and I could probably talk about for quite a while, but I don't want to keep us rolling. We're already 18 minutes. So we appreciate you guys giving us some time out of your day. Appreciate you diving in with us. If you have questions around stock photography, how you can leverage it for your brand or your products, your service, or you just want to kind of have a discovery call, we would love to do that. So feel free to reach out to us. And then again, if you have topics you want us to get into the queue for future, drop it in the comments, and we'll make sure that we touch on those in the future. But again, thank you for joining with us. Dive on in and have a great rest of your Thursday.
Have a blessed day, everyone.
Bye, team. Appreciate you. Take
See
care.
ya.